Hi everyone, this is Tammy, owner of Worthyworthitpriceless, and today's podcast is titled, He Will Never Leave You. So this will be a journey podcast, so I'm going to give you different bits and pieces of a story, and then at the end, it will all come together. So, my grandmother, right before my grandmother passed away, I can never remember if it was the day before she passed away or the week before. My grandmother, we found out she passed away on a Monday. So I remember either it was the Sunday before she passed or the week before, but either way, I went up to the front and my pastor spoke over me. It was a prophecy. And he kept saying over and over, God said, He will never leave you. He will never leave you. He will never leave you. So the next thing I know, my grandmother passed away. And I'm like, man, immediately I felt as though my connection to God had just basically left. And my grandmother was like my everything. She was my cheerleader, everything. And she was just everything to me. But my connection to God, like every time I usually had an issue or a problem, not saying I didn't go to God, but I knew that if I needed a prayer to get through, I had to go to my grandmother to get that done. And I also knew that God spoke to her. So at the end of the day, obviously, if something happened, I go straight to my grandma. But for a little bit of a backstory, even on that, how I really knew, it was like one time I actually got involved with this guy, and he was definitely on the wrong side of the tracks. It was somebody I definitely shouldn't have dated. And she knew about it or whatever, but either way, we were on the phone, and she ended up praying over me and over the situation and basically praying this person away from me. And it immediately I felt because it seemed as though there was this dark cloud over me. Immediately after she prayed for me, it was like the dark cloud subsided. I felt better, everything. I'm like, man, you know what I mean? Because that's how you would feel. I knew that she had a strong connection to God. So that was my thing. And as soon as she passed away, I felt like my connection to God was gone. And there was this other time right before my breakup. It was 2 months before my breakup. I went to church. Another prophecy happened. And I was told, God said, you're going to have a hard time, but everything is going to work out. And I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? And that was the only instructions. 2 months later, here we go, having to start over from scratch and all this other stuff. And once again, God warned me beforehand, but I'll keep going with the story. There was another time I was praying and crying, and I was just once the same thing that God said. He already told me I was going to have a hard time. So keep that in mind. And I'm praying and I'm crying to God, and he told me, he said, you're crying over something that I have already worked out. And I'm like, okay, it's just basically, do I get off the floor? Because, okay. So, that was another time. Keep that in mind. And just recently, I was going through something, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, God, where are you? That's our relationship. I'm like, where are you? Because I don't see you, hear you, whatever. What do you need me to do? What do you want me to do? And I was like, can you please spell it out for me? Because, you know what I mean? Because you have to, with God, I need for him to be specific. I'm like, what do you need me to do? You spell it out for me. You say it in layman's terms, this, that, and the third. And the funniest thing, I got my answer. He said, rest. And I seen the words spelled out, rest. And I seen somebody basically laying in the bed or something like that. And it was like, oh. And then immediately I felt better and everything because I basically got my answer from God. Rest. So to put that all together. The thing is, God never said he wasn't going to be there when I had a hard time. He never said, he told me the other time that I could basically get off the floor and stop crying because he's already worked it out. And he also told me to rest. So if you look it back over at everything, the first thing that I stated was that God said he will never leave me. When my grandmother passed away, he'll never leave me. He told me before I even had my breakup, 2 months before I even went through anything, he told me I was going to have a hard time. He warned me, but he never said that he wasn't going to be there for me in those situations. And even like I said recently, I'm sitting over like, God, where are you? And this, that, and the third. And he's like, rest. So the thing is, it's not that he's not there. You may not hear from him, but it's not that he's not there. He's still working on your behalf. So don't be afraid when you don't hear from him or anything like that. Realize that he's still there. And maybe he just needs for you to rest so he can just do the work. A lot of times we want to put everything in our own hands and we want to sit up there and we want to maneuver this and that. And it's like, oh, God, it's taking too long and this, that, and the third. So I'm going to put it in my own hands. And once again, I will let you know, do not do that. I've did that many a times and I've messed up a lot of things. And not saying that God can't make your mess a masterpiece and all this other stuff, but it's a thing. Sometimes you don't have to go down the detour. You don't have to go down the hard path. Sometimes you just need to sit down and just rest and let God do what he does best. The thing is, he's not far from you. He's next to you. But we automatically want God to tell us every little thing that he's doing. And that's not something he's going to do. His plans are above our plans. His mindset is way above ours. And when I look back over my life and everything that happened, there was things that were done. There was no way that I could have done those things. No way that I could have thought up those things. God planned everything strategically. But we have to put things in his hand. And for someone who might be going through something right now, I want to give you that encouragement that I know it feels like you are alone. I know it feels like no one understands you. I know it feels like just you are basically by yourself. I want you to know that God understands you. You're not by yourself. And I know you may not be able to hear from him, but still talk to him. Have that conversation, because I promise you he'll talk back. He'll be there for you. He'll give you that comfort, but you have to ask for it. He's not just going to force himself on you. He's not going to just sit up there and just basically take over without your permission. He's not like that. But if you tell him like, God, I just need you right now, he'll give you that comfort. He'll give you that peace that you need. I'm not saying that you're not going to go through things. Like I said, he told me I was going to go through stuff. But he never said that he wasn't going to be there. He told me even before I went through anything that he was going to be there. He said he was never going to leave me. He warned me before I even had a breakup, a hard time, anything. And even in the midst of the storm, he told me that I was worrying about something that he already worked out. And then when I really didn't know what was going on in my life, he told me to rest. In the midst of a storm, he's like, rest. He has everything under control. We just want to know everything or we just want him to say something or tell us what's going to happen or whatever. Because, like sometimes you even watch movies, you know how that goes. And something happens like, well, where did they go? What did this happen? We're asking a lot of questions in the movie. It's going to be revealed to you when the time is right. You think about it. You don't leave a movie. You might have certain questions about like why someone did something. But usually at the end of the movie, unless it's a to be continued, it's like you know how it ends. Basically, because you see the end of the movie. So that's the same thing with life, if that makes sense. God may not tell you every little detail, but as you keep going, God is directing you in the path of where you should go. He's not done with your story. It's not over for you. Even if you're going through a storm right now, it's not over for you. And so be encouraged. And just the same thing that God told me when I was on the floor crying. You're crying over something that he's already worked out. He has great plans for your life. It's not over for you. You're going to make it much further than you've ever imagined. You just got to keep going. You don't end the story in the middle of, you don't end the movie in the middle. You don't know what happens. So don't give up in the middle. Let God work out everything. He's not going to leave you. And I know that some of you, if you've been through, everybody has been through stuff where people have said that they were going to be in your life and they're not in your life. And the people that you thought was going to always be there, they're not there and stuff like that. God is not like that. He didn't create you for you to fail. Yes, you're going to have hard times, but like he said to me, they're all going to work out for you. And I'm not all the way on the other side, but he didn't lie. He didn't lie. Like I could tell you, like just right here, right now, at this moment, he did not lie. This is like almost like 4 years later. He didn't lie. I was going to have a hard time, but everything did work out. I was crying over stuff that he worked out. He did not lie. So I am a witness to that. And so I want to give you that encouragement. I know you might be going through something. I know that it may not seem, you can't see the other side. You may not see a light right now, but I want you to know that it's all going to work out for your good. And as well as God is with you, he's not going to leave you in the middle of the storm. He's right on the boat with you. He's going right through that whole situation with you. So know that God is with you always. He's never going to leave you, never going to forsake you. You don't have to think about him as you think about other people or, because, a lot of times people will leave you and forsake you. But God isn't like that. He didn't create you to fail. He has a great plan for your life. So keep going, keep fighting. Know that God is always with you. Know that you have worth, you have value. God loves you. I love you. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Always know that you are worthy, worth it, and priceless. And until next time, bye.